During my time writing code as a software developer, I founded a digital agency called Cleanify. You can Google it probably. Um, and what I did with that agency basically was I found a small, strong team, and we built digital products, right? Websites, web applications, and mobile apps for startups and brands globally. Um, Clarify still runs to date, though I'm not as actively involved. There's a team basically that still runs that. But we got on to build products for startups, businesses, and brands across several continents, Nigeria, of course, Africa, the US, the UK, Europe, Asia, Canada, and more. And I was doing that, of course, to make money, right? I'm in Nigeria, but also to create a lot of value, right? And I'm sharing that experience to say that I have, gotten on to relate with a lot of companies, businesses, and brands, not just within Africa, playing across like different industries, all looking to build solutions, all looking to solve problems using digital products, right? And so, in my sharing tonight, I will be bringing some of those unique perspective as well into the conversation. Now, let's get into the topic properly. Obviously, I'd have preferred if we had more persons on the call, but it's also really good we have this number. It means that the conversation can be a lot more personal and all that. So at intervals, I'll get to call specific persons, ask questions, and you guys, I'm hoping to also get as many questions, as possible as we proceed. Right. So competitive analysis beyond spying, right? Now, most people think that competitive analysis is just about checking out your competitors, right? So checking out your competitor websites, stalking them, or doing some bit of spying. Truthfully, there's some bit of spying involved, right? When I was preparing for this session some days back, I made a LinkedIn post and I mentioned how 2 years ago I built a business banking product at the company I worked with then, and it was my first foray into business banking. And the first thing I did was find the top competitors or the top banks and NFBs and fintech companies that had strong fintech products. That's apps, for example. Downloaded them, signed up, and played around with what they had, looking at their features, looking at how their onboarding flow worked, like, what was the KYC process. Fun fact, while doing the sign up across the different applications, I timed how long it took me to sign up. So typically, if all of us have like banking apps, so we've all had to onboard, across like multiple fintech apps and all that, banks, right? I know that sometimes onboarding is divided into different stages. So I looked at all the stages and timed how long it took me to sign up. And my plan, of course, was to beat that in the business banking app I was going to eventually build. Now, whether I actually was able to beat that time, which means getting folk businesses and founders and companies to sign up faster on my products, is a different question entirely. But most people think that it's just about checking out websites and stalking apps and pages and all of that. But I'm here to tell you that it's beyond copying. It's about understanding what your competitors have, their advantages, and even much more their disadvantages, so you can build something better. Right? That's competitive analysis. Who are my competitors? What are they offering to the market right now? What do they have? And what are the advantages of what they have? What are the things what they have is doing pretty well? And what are the things that what they have is not doing too well? so that I can identify my own product's unique value proposition, unique selling points, USP, and captivate the hearts of the market, right? That's competitive analysis in a nutshell. There are several things that it is not. It is not copying features, right? And we're going to touch that. I already said touch now. We're going to touch that a bit when we get into in-depth. It's not copying features. Copying features is a lazy way to do this. And I'm sorry to say, right? If you look at the tech ecosystem today, the digital landscape, we can pick the fintech space as not perhaps, the fintech space is actually the most saturated in terms of number of players, number of competitors, number of competing products. It's a tightly contested market segment, right? And sorry to say, there's a lot of lazy copying. There's a lot of copying, right? Now, I know that a lot of the duplicate or similar features you have across multiple banking apps is really down to the problems we're trying to solve. What I mean is a fintech startup that wants to make transactions seamless or transacting seamless, a basic feature they need to have is single transfers. That's me being able to transfer funds from my account to your account, right? And so if there are 100 companies or 500 companies playing in that space, all of them will have single transfers. But your job as a product manager or as a startup founder or in operations or whatever, on call that, your job is, even in a tightly contested space, even in a tightly contested niche, even for tightly contested solutions or features, how can I differentiate my product from yours? One, two, how can I make my offering better than yours? And I'm going to give you examples, right? I have bank accounts in multiple banks or platforms currently, and I will give you guys this challenge as well. If you examine 3 bank applications, let's narrow it down to the single transfer feature. That's transferring money to another person. You'll notice that 3 banks, if you examine 3 banks, you'll notice 3 different flows. Some folks will, when you want to do a transfer, you click a button, you would be prompted to put in the amount first, and then put in the bank, and then put in the account, select the account number, and then the name inquiry check is done. And then you type your narration, you hit next, you put in your PIN, and it is executed. Right? What we did in here was put in the amount first. The next application will have you put in the bank first, put in the account number, right? Name and credit check is done, and then it sends you to where you type in the amount and your narration, and then it goes. Another one will flip things, account number, bank. And so my point is the same feature, different user flows, all looking very similar, but different, unique in their own ways. What your customer cares about is which is the most seamless to use, which is the most straightforward to use, right? And which of this actually works, right? So competitive analysis is not copying features. It's not panicking every time a competitor launches something new. It's not just doing one-time research and dumping insights. And I'm going to talk about insights a lot because the connection between competitive analysis and product growth is your insights and how you are able to derive actionable steps, right? Or actionable or implementable strategies from the insights, right? So that's a link. You do your competitive analysis. The goal is to drive product growth. If you're not able to derive clear insights from what you have analyzed and what you have researched, then what you've done will basically be a waste, right? And so what exactly, we talked about what it's not. What is it? It is understanding what your customers value most. It's finding gaps and white spaces in the market. I repeat that, finding gaps and white spaces in the market. How you find gaps is, to find gaps, you first need to know what exists in the market. Who are my competitors? What are they offering? Right? What's the A to Z of what they're offering? And then the next thing is, having now understood what they're offering, you'll be able to find out gaps they are missing out on, things they are not offering that can form a part of your own unique value proposition to the market. You can find gaps basically by checking out some very basic ways, right? Go to the app store, for example, check out the reviews on the app, right? I know a number of companies find a way to game their reviews online, but in between all of the fake positive reviews will be genuine customers who are angry and frustrated and who are complaining about specific features in the app, right? And those complaints really can range from a feature that is broken and they've been constantly shouting about to no avail, all the way to something the customers have been saying, we want you to give this to us. We want this feature. Yes, you have this, it's fine, we're enjoying it, but we need to be able to solve more problems using this extra feature, right? So those are ways basically you'd be able to start to find gaps that exist for your customer or your competitor products. Competitive analysis is learning what business models and experiences resonate with customers. And there's not a lot of time. I also do intend to take a lot of time, but I will touch on the business modeling. So I think that a lot of product managers just stay on the product side, just stay on the digital product side. And I'm emphasizing digital because a lot of persons should just stay on the app, on the web app. What does it have? How's it flow? What are the buttons like? What's the customer journey like and all of that stuff? How interactive is the experience? But also understanding the business model, also understanding the digital channels through which your competitor is serving the markets is also critical, right? So we'll touch a bit on business modeling as we progress. And competitive analysis is ultimately will lead you to building a better version of that particular solution for that category and niche, not just a clone, right? Do we have any questions at this point? Again, I want this to be interactive. So this is just an initial preamble. We've talked about what competitive analysis is not and what it is. We're about to take a deeper dive. But do we have any quick comments or questions at this point? And maybe if there are comments, we can put those in the chat. So I'm looking at the chat right now, and I see that it's empty. I'd like us to be a lot more engaging in the chat section. So as I get to share things that resonate or get to share things that make a lot of sense, I'd like us to drop comments basically around that. And maybe as questions also come in, we can also put those in there as well. Okay, so there are no questions at this stage. Let's take a deeper dive. Let's talk about competitive analysis. How do you go about it, right? What are segments or what are dimensions to competitive analysis that you need to factor as a product manager or as a founder? There's the product, right? There's the product dimension. There's the pricing and business modeling dimension, which I said I'd be excited to touch a bit. There's the marketing and brand positioning dimension. There's the customer experience, and there's the distribution and partnerships. 5. If you can conquer these 5 dimensions, do your research, extensive research, gather your insights, and translate that into strategies and unique value propositions or selling points for your product and your solution. I think that you have increased your chances of product success. And that is, I'm going to show some practical examples of that's what a lot of companies currently who are leaders in their fields did. I'll give an example, Paystack. When Paystack was going to launch the African market, there was not a lot of African competitors they could look to. And so who they understudied and looked to a lot, right, was Stripe, right? They studied Stripe. They did it, what, I don't know, I'm sure we know what are called product tear downs. You look at a product and you tear it down, you examine it, you unmask it, down not just from the front end, all the way to the back end. And so they understudied Stripe, studied Stripe's APIs, Stripe's applications, the US, the simplicity, and they were able to. Okay, so someone, you want me to drop them? I don't have a slide. I did not have time to prepare one. And so I'm just going to help with that. Okay, so products, pricing and business model, marketing and brand positioning, customer experience, distribution and partnership, right? Now I was talking about Paystack. Paystack on the studied Stripe, did a tear down of what they offered, but they did not build a clone. They added local context. And now, if you notice, guys, I feel like I'm dropping a lot of important things here and there. So I hope we're listening. I hope we're listening, and we're just going to be able to pick relevant areas, basically, that really resonate with us. What I mentioned just now is what Paystack did to Stripe. They understudied what all that Stripe had and offered, but they did not just build a clone. And I think that's where a lot of products being launched into markets miss the mark. It's not about building a clone. So Paystack added local context because what we're building was essentially for the African market, for the Nigerian market. And so they built it for African payments, right? They built it to be able to cater to African or Nigerian bank integrations and mobile money, right? So that's a practical example, for example. Now let's talk about products, right? Features, design, and usability, right? First thing to do is you want to build products. List your direct competitors and indirect competitors, right? I encourage us to take notes, right? So if you know nothing about competitive analysis, you want to start, here's a roadmap to doing it. Starting from the product dimension. Sit down. I want to build X app. List your direct competitors and indirect competitors, right? Let me give you an example. If I was building a food ordering solution, right, whose vision, whose goal is to help bring food or to help people order for food faster or more seamlessly or to help people feed better, right? My direct competitors will be, if we're in the physical class, I would ask us to chorus. I'm sure all of us will chorus Child Deck first. My direct competitor will be Child Deck. My next direct competitor will be Glovo, right? And then if I wanted to keep going on, there's Bolt Food, there's Jumia Food, right? But I also have indirect competitors I need to consider, right? My indirect, let me ask the question here, right? Who will be I'd like someone to give an example of an indirect competitor for this type of product. Giving you direct, give me indirect. You can put it in the chat, so someone just unmute and speak. I'm waiting, guys. We don't have time. No, okay, so if no one has an idea, I need someone to mute and say, I don't have an idea. I just need some contributions to show. Okay, go ahead. Okay. After yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
I don't have an idea.
You don't have an idea. So no
I
one
said
has an
I
idea.
do not have an idea.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. I got that. So no one has an idea. Okay, fine. Let me help. An indirect competitor will be that Instagram food vendor. How many of us see Instagram food vendors online? Right? Those guys basically that from their house, they cook food in bulk and they open Instagram accounts and advertise what they have. They record all these very scintillating, eye-catchy, hunger-inducing videos, right? And say, come on, place your bulk order. We supply offices, we supply parties. Place your bulk order. Call this number and we'll supply to you. I have ordered directly from one or two vendors like that. I had somebody who was referred to me, and in my house, there was a week when it was going to be hectic. We had trips and all of that. We just ordered for buckets of soup and stuff, right? So those are Instagram vendors. They are your direct competitors if you're building a food ordering product, right? Or solution. WhatsApp kitchen businesses, they're in the same category, right? So make your list of direct competitors and indirect competitors, right? And next thing is, after you've done that, create a simple table comparing your product with theirs, right? Now, because you are just starting out to build products, what you are comparing on your end is your product idea, right? The features you've imagined, the ideas you've imagined, basically, the flows you've imagined. So do a comparison. Okay. Hi, Salaku. Is this a question?
Yes, actually, I didn't actually get the question. The network was actually muffling. But from my explanation, I think you are talking about competitive analysis of food business, like you want to go into food business. And you are talking about Instagram food vendors. Okay. For example, I might not be based in Lagos. I might be based in Port Harcourt. And this food vendor mostly reside in Lagos. And so for me, I won't be listing them as my competitors.
You said you are based in you said you are based in Port Harcourt.
Yes. I'm based in Port Harcourt, and these food vendors are mostly based in Lagos. So me operating as a food vendor or trying to start a business around food in Port Harcourt, the so-called vendor on Instagram, I won't be putting them as my competitors, the indirect competitors. I might just look at what they are doing better.
Yeah, so you're not asking a question, you're making a comment, right? So let me respond to that. Obviously, and I think I emphasized this when I was talking about Paystack and Stripe, you need to add your unique context to your research. If you are based in Port Harcourt, the solution you're launching is first for the Port Harcourt market. You have no business with vendors in Lagos. You have instead business with vendors who are targeting Port Harcourt. It's, again, obviously, right? Now, for subsequent questions or comments, for now, let's put them in the chat. When next I am able to have a brief pause, we'll get to take them. Okay, so list your competitors, direct, indirect. Compare your products with theirs, offerings, features, and all of that. What are they offering? What are you offering? What are they also offering, basically? What are similarities? What are differences, right? Compare different stages of the user journey. I talked about, for example, the fintech products, onboarding, the onboarding experience. What was it like? What was it like for my competitors? The home experience, that's the landing page experience. So I've gone through onboarding. When I log into the application, what's the experience? How how relaxing or otherwise is it? I'm sure we've accessed, for example, mobile applications where when you enter in, when you just log into the landing page, you already feel like you're having a big, because there's 2 billion things happening. It's a lot of stress, right? So those are things you need to look at. What's the UX like? What are the different phases like onboarding, the home experience, basically, and more specific features. An example, for example, will be fintech. If I was building a new fintech app to cater to users' transaction needs, I probably will be comparing like a CUDA versus OP versus money points. I would access what they are offering in different areas, onboarding speed, customer support, for example, the transacting experience, the savings experience. If from the business strategy side, I'm also going to be launching credits with the V1 of version 1 of my app. I'll be also comparing what's the loan request process like? How long does it take to request for a loan and all of that stuff, right? So those are, you need to do very, very in-depth comparisons, right? On the product side. Now, when you've done that, you need to look at the next thing you're looking at basically is the pricing and business model. Sorry, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you
we
now.
cannot
We
hear
lost
you.
you for some minutes.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I had the bit of glitch. So I was talking about, can you guys hear me? I think my internet is glitching.
I'm okay from my side.
Your mic is muted again.
Okay, sorry guys, I had a bit of glitches, but I think I'm back now and stable. Okay, so we were touching on products. We're talking the product dimension of competitive analysis, and I've talked about what you should analyze, the core features, the unique or differentiating features they have compared to what you have, as well as the optional features that add value, right? Now, you're not only comparing features, you should also compare design, right? You should also compare the usability, accessibility. What is the overall experience like, right? Now, once you've done that and you've covered that dimension, and again, because of time, I cannot go a lot more in depth than that. The next dimension you should cover after products is the pricing and business model. Now, why this matters is this. You need to understanding how your competitors monetize their products or the products they're offering to the markets would help you know what customers are willing to pay for and what customers don't want to pay for, right? Now, the reason why we build products is to solve problems. We build solutions to solve customer pain points and customer problems, but that is not the full picture, right? From a business perspective, from a commercial perspective, right? Startups build products to make money as well. And that's why it's important that product managers are not just knowledgeable on the product side of things, but you need to have context on the business side of things. If you were building a product for me that is amazing and shiny and beautiful UI, beautiful experience, great research. But you cannot tell me how that product will make me money. That's as a startup founder, for example, as a business, right? And you're not able to give me a forecast. We're launching this to the market tomorrow, and based on this pricing model, which fits into this overall business model and strategy, I estimate that we would be able to have on board 10,000 users in the first month, of which, or amongst which, 10% of that number, 1,000, will give us 5,000 naira monthly, for example, in a subscriptions-based pricing model. If you're not able to give a forecast or tell me how that product will make money, then you've not exactly done your job. So it's not just about the product, the aesthetics, the functionality. It's about the business model, right, behind the product. It's about the pricing model. And so this is it's very important that in your analysis, you're also looking out for this angle as well. So what are the things to analyze? You need to analyze the revenue model, and there are different revenue or pricing models. There's subscriptions based, there's freemium, there's transaction fee, there's commissions. Your fintech apps use primarily the transaction fee. That's the primary way to make money, right? And you make more money at scale if you were building a fintech app, right? So if we charge you five naira for each transaction, if in a day there's an average of 1,000 transactions, that means we're only making 5,000 naira in revenue from transactions, right? The more scale, the more money you make. You have subscriptions. We all know what subscriptions are. You have freemium. Freemium basically is, I'm building a product that offers 5 core features or 5 core top solutions via let's say web app digital channel, right? And out of the 5, I give you 2 for free. The plan is, let's give our users 2 out of those 5 for free so that they can test. They can, let's give them some sugar, like let's give some sugar to ants, that analogy, for example, so that they are attracted into the ecosystem. They get to sign up, they get to come in. And when they test those first 2, and get to experience how satisfactory they are, they will be incentivized to give us some change, some money, right, to unlock the next 3. That's freemium, right? So you need to compare the revenue models, the pricing tiers, right? Here's what I mean. Let's do a practical example. I've used a lot of Child Deck and Glovo, right? I used to be a Glovo fanboy till I discovered Child Deck and I switched to Child Deck. If you were building something that would compete with both of them, it would be crazy for you not to look at how much these guys charge, the average cost for delivery for these competitors, right? So let's say in your own world, you build the nice products, you do all of the back-end work, you find all of the, you are able to seal partnership deals with all of the food vendors, top restaurants in town. On the other side of your operations, you get all of you have great riders and all of delivery guys, delivery agents on the other hand, and you bring everybody in on the back end, and then you build your shiny app. You now go and make the mistake of charging 5,000 naira for delivery, while these guys who own bigger market share have found ways to optimize for 1,000 naira, 1,005 for delivery. It's product suicide, it's business suicide. This is not going to scale, no matter how amazing what you're building is. So do you guys see why you need to also look at the business side and go a little in depth and do business on business comparisons as well? So revenue model, pricing tiers, do they have any upsells and add-ons? Do they have, what kind of discounts and promotions have they run, or are they known in the market to run? And so when you do, I've done researches like this, analysis like this, and what you typically find is that the product or the business and product was steady acquiring customers on an average of, let's say, 5,000 a month. But then you find out that the months when they run specific campaigns, it could be maybe a discount promo or specific promotion or campaign. You find out that in your analysis that there was an unusual spike in customer adoption for that month. And so if you do a long-term analysis, right, say the last 5 years, you find out that average growth was 5,000 a month, but when they ran a campaign, it jumped to 20,000 for that month. And then when the campaign died down, because you cannot run campaigns for life, you need to ensure that you're not bleeding cash, right? When the campaign went down, user acquisition dropped to 7,000, right? What that means is the promo got in a lot of people's 20,000, but and not just that, in terms of long term, right? A lot more persons became aware, and it also now increased the average user acquisition rates. So 7,000, and then they ran the next promo, and then it spiked again to 30,000, and then when it ended, it dropped down. So I'm trying to do all of this to be as practical as possible. You need to also check out promotions and discounts you're running. And why that's important is because it would form a part of your growth strategy. Remember, the topic is using competitive analysis to drive product growth. Now, product growth starts from launch. Once you launch to the market, the journey to growth has started. Obviously, you need to phase it. There are growth strategies that will work at the initial and early stage of product launch. There are strategies that would work at the post initial stage. Your initial stage could be defined as, let's say, in the initial 6 months to 1 year, right? So there are strategies for each phase for growth, right? So revenue models, pricing tiers, upsells and add-ons, discount on promotions, and cost structures. You need to do all of those analysis. I hope you guys are taking notes, right? The next is marketing and brand position. And now, no matter how sweet this session might be, I don't want to bore you guys out, and I also have had a long day. So let me put you guys on notice that I will start to wrap up, and I'll give myself 10 minutes to be done with my churn, right? So if you guys have questions, feel free to start prepping them. Maybe you can start putting them in chats. I'd like to take as many questions as possible. So, but I'm telling myself now to wrap up within the next 10 minutes. And favor, please do a reminder when it's 5 minutes left, and when it's 2 minutes left. Thank you. Now, we've touched products, we've touched pricing and business modeling. I hope it's clear. Let's look at the third dimension: market and brand positioning. Right? Why does this matter? You guys probably should already get why this matters. If I build an amazing product and I slap on it an amazing business model, price model, but I'm not able to drive strategic marketing for the product, it will fail. So product success is really a combination of multiple factors. Your products, the product itself, there are 1,000 things to look in there. The business model behind the product, a lot of things to look in there, as well as the marketing and brand positioning. Every time I talk, either in large tech conferences or physical, smaller, closer sessions, or even virtual sessions, every time I talk about brand and marketing, I like to emphasize on PiggyVest, right? I think that they are perhaps in the top 3 brands in Nigeria, West Africa, and if I want to stretch it, Africa, and I can stretch it because PiggyVest, I think, hits like 5 million users like 2 years back. So if there were 5 million like 2 years back, I'm sure they probably added maybe 1 or 2 more million now, right? So when it comes to marketing and brand positioning, I think that PiggyVest are excellent examples of how to build a product that solves a problem and how to drive a fine combination of organic and inorganic marketing, right? And so this is important because the way your competitors market their products and how they communicate to the target audience, to target markets, tells you which audiences are important, which audience market segments are important. Now, let me talk on markets. When we say markets, there's a generic sense in which sometimes we look at it. But do you know that you can, even when you identify specific market segments for your products, you can still really need, in those general market segments, there are sub niches or sub segments in them. And you would only find them if you want to be detailed in your analysis. Let me give you an example. 2 years ago, I built a business banking product. I talked about that when I started session. It became a success. It was the first one my company ever had. It was demanding, it was audacious. It was a success. I took it to $30 million, from $0 to $30 million in GTV. That's gross transaction value or volume. No, value rather. Value is a combination of your total volume. That's inflow, deposits, and outflow. Transfers out. Outward transfers. So I took it to $30 million in 6 months, and then we hit $55 million at the end of 9 months. I also took it from 0 to the first 100 business banking customers. That's businesses, startups, enterprise companies that were customers. Now, when I was doing my research, I discovered that I was building for businesses. It's straightforward. Who is a business? A business is a company that offers value, right? But I discovered that there are actually 3-4 sub types of businesses or sub business segments or niches. You have the one-man businesses, right? And each segment has core properties and characteristics, right? So you have the one-man businesses, right? The one-man businesses are not structured, most times not usually legally registered, and they have a transactions volume. They have a range, a small range, right? 0 to, let's say, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million in a month, depending, of course, on the size. You have the startups, so one-man businesses, and then you have startups next. Startups are better structured compared to the one-man businesses. They're legally registered. They have a higher transactions volume range. And then you have a category in between the startups, and then you have the enterprise guys. Enterprise levels are your big companies, right? They are bigger than startup guys. They are very structured. They are not just legally registered. They have strong governance, corporate governance. So they have boards set up, advisory boards, primary boards, and all of that stuff. So those kind of companies typically would have multiple signatories before even 1 naira can be released from them, right? Those kind of companies are companies that have branches globally. And sometimes for selling funds to be released, somebody in China or somebody in France needs to sign. And then there are actually 4. So in between startups and the large enterprises, you have the small enterprise and large enterprise guys, right? So that was me doing my research to find out what the business segments for. Now, guess the exciting part of this, which applies to all we're talking about. When I was building my MVP, there was no way in the world I was going to build a product, my first version that was going to cater to all of these segments. Not possible. Maybe it would have been possible if I had a large team. If I worked at Google, right? They probably have given me resources. And maybe I'd have like a 100-man engineering team, or engineering, design, QA, Scrum, and stuff to build. And maybe I'd have had more time, 6 months, a lot of funding and stuff, right? But in the smaller company, I couldn't do that, right? So I had to be specific. My MVP catered to first the one-man businesses and startups. So I covered majorly the one-man businesses and a bit of the startups. And then what I just did was every month I kept shipping new features, new improvements, till I was now starting to be able to cater to the small enterprise companies. What kind of feature did I ship for them? I shipped bulk transfers. So your startup company that wants to pay salaries at the end of the month, so let's say they have 50 staff, bulk transfers enable them to schedule salary payments. And my first bulk transfer feature catered to 200 transfers at a time. Blah, 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 blah. So that's just, I've gone off course, but that's just really giving some insight into customer segmenting. I have 5 minutes left, and I was giving this 2 minutes ago. Okay, let's go back. So marketing and brand positioning. I took a detour to talking about target audience. You need to analyze who are the target audience of your competitors. I've taught that already. What kind of messaging do they use to market or communicate to this target audience? What are the channels of communication, right? And so if you find that your competitors are primarily active on Instagram, it gets why. Do we understand? Your competitors are primarily maintaining solid presence on Instagram, on Twitter, Instagram and Twitter. So if they maintain primary presence and activity on Instagram and Twitter, with secondary presence and activity on LinkedIn and Facebook, it gets why. If you now go and launch your own to the same target market and you are now spending your effort on LinkedIn, you are going to lose out. Because obviously, these guys have market share because they've been doing many things right. And one of the things they've been doing right is that they've been targeting and speaking to the correct audience in the place the audience is, or the places the audience are. Right? So if you now go and misplace that or miss out on that, then is going to be problematic, right? So the content and channels and the value proposition, how do they communicate their edge to the market, right? I'm going to touch the next 2 items in 2 minutes or 1 more minute. Next, the fourth dimension is customer experience. What is customer experience like? I've touched that. Go and check out their app reviews. What's their app reviews on the App Store, Google Play? Check platforms like Trustpilot. What's social media chatter about? Go on Twitter. Put in the company name. That's how you can find it. Twitter is the place where people complain the most. It's crazy, right? Go on Twitter. Set the name of the competitor, right? Set your search filter for the last 1 year, last 2 years, and read what people are saying. Twitter is the place where if I use your business, your banking app, I transfer money and the money fails, I will just go on Twitter and drag you. Twitter is the place where you find, and it will shock you that, usually when you check Twitter, you see a lot of influencers maybe do some call outs, which will gain a lot of engagement and traction. But it's not really about those popular guys. It's about the people that don't have any followers. The person that has 5 followers and it calls you out and there's no engagement or no like, you would see a lot of them. So look out for social media chatter, do your app reviews, do your support and response speed. I have done crazy things before. I have signed up and then I opened their live chats and raised the support ticket or did the support request to see how long it takes. Again, guys, the better you want to be as a product manager or founder. I keep saying founder. Maybe I feel like there's some founders on this call or some aspiring founders, right? But the better you want to be as a product manager or aspiring founder, the deeper, the more detailed, the more analytical, right? You will need to be. Your edge, especially in this world of AI. AI tools can help you do crazy insight analysis. You can do this thing in a minute. So your edge is not really the tools. It's your analytical mind and how much the extra mile you want to take. A lot of guys will stop at the product dimension of computer analysis, but I've touched business and pricing modeling. I'm touching currently the customer journey as well, right? I've touched the marketing and brand position. So these are things you need to check. The customer experience, what's it like? The reviews, social media chatter, user journey pain points. Doing your review and checks online will reveal pain points that exist, right? And your goal is my product must be better than my competitor, because having now seen pain points that a lot of people have been complaining about, I will beat it. And it's not just in the user experience and interface, it's a lot in the functionality. Guys, if you're building products, it needs to function well. And then finally, we have distribution and partnerships. This also matters, right? Again, it depends on how detailed you want to get. Why does this matter? It matters because distribution channels and partnerships drive scale. This matters a lot on the growth segments, right? So you've built your product, you've launched it to the market, it's doing okay. 1,000 users after the first month. After the second month, 3,000 users. After the next one, 5,000 users. A lot of your competitors started the same way, but what they did was they were able to close one strategic partnership deal that allowed them to introduce their products or a specific core offering or core solution from the large suites of things they were offering the product. So in one partnership deal that they sealed that allowed them, that gave them good leverage to introduce that offering to 2 million customers at a time. Or you guys don't believe that partnerships you can seal that would put your product suddenly or allow you offer your product to 2 million customers or 500K or 1 million. And that drove growth. For a lot of products, if you're building a fintech product, for example, imagine that you can grow your average transactions volume, right, from 1,000 a day suddenly to 500K over 3 months. That's going to be more revenue, right? So partnerships matter. And so do your research, right? What kind of strategic partnerships have these guys been able to see over the years, right? What kind of channels, right? Are they primarily driving their product to? So this dimension is distribution and partnerships. So how are they distributing their product? Are they using web applications or is it mobile applications, right? What are the core or key geographic focus? Let me give an example on this. Let me take a pause here. Let's go to the logistics or the ride-hailing sector or segments, right? Every major ride-hailing company that's launched in Nigeria started in Lagos. So if you're a product manager who's building a ride-hailing app, you should be able to intuitively do your research beyond just the product business model, marketing and brand positioning, or the customer experience to the geographic focus, which falls under distribution, right? Why is everybody starting from Lagos? If I was leading product for a global company who wanted to launch into the Nigerian market across core or key areas, fintech, health tech, logistics, food ordering, or even ride-hailing, right? It's a no-brainer that we have to start from Lagos, right? So Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, right? So you need to find out why Lagos, not just why Lagos. How did they launch in Lagos? Because Lagos is large, right? I wanted to tell you a story, guys, but I don't have time. I think my time is up. So I'm not going to tell that story, but Lagos, my point is that Lagos is very large. So finding out, discovering the launch in Lagos first, and why they launched in Lagos, how did they launch in Lagos? What local government areas did they first consider? I mean, look at Chowdek, for example, right? Ajah alone is a mini town on its own. There are hundreds of restaurants here. And so if you were going to cover Ajah, which is, let's say, 1/30th of the entire Lagos, there are operational requirements required to be able to cover here substantially. There are marketing requirements covered to be able to cover Ajah substantially. How about Yaba? How about Ikeja? So geographically, if your product again has such requirements, you need to be able to knit down to the various macro levels, right? So distribution and partnerships. What are the channels, digital channels through which my competitors are offering the products? Partnerships, what partnerships they have, what geographical focus, and what sort of referral programs and affiliate programs and all that stuff are they offering? Now, once you've gathered your insights across the segments, what is now left is to use all of the data sets, all of the metrics, right? And the analysis to derive insights which will inform your strategy for one, product visioning, product strategy creation, product development, product launch, and product growth. Now, I'm covering from if all you had was a product idea that you wanted to build. Having now done all of the research and all of that stuff, use the insights you gather from there to now drive and inform and craft your own unique product vision, product strategy. The product development covers your requirements, what features. So having now looked at all my competitors are doing from A to Z, what features must I launch first to be able to start to steal some market share for myself? So you create your product roadmap. What should I launch first? And then after 3 months, what should I launch next? And after 6 months, what should I launch next? After 1 year, what should I launch next? You need to tie those requirements on your roadmap to expected outcomes or forecasted outcomes. So I need to launch 5 features first to drive these outcomes, to enable X segment of the market to be able to start to do transfers. And you don't stop there. If they would be able to do X transfers, if I'll be solving X pain points with X features, X this solution, then we should be able to derive X revenue from that. And then in 3 months' time, I would launch X feature to increase our solutions and what we're offering basically as well, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff there, but I can't go into that. So what I'm going to end with now is, once you've done your research, gather those insights, use it to inform and drive your product development, product launch, your marketing after launch, your positioning after launch, and product growth and scale, right? I think that if we can do this effectively, right, we would be better positioned and we would have greater potential for launching successful products to the market. There are a number of frameworks for competitive analysis. There's a SWOT framework: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. There's a blue ocean strategy. There's a jobs to be done strategy. Those are I didn't go that route because those are on the theoretical angle. You guys can easily look those things up, basically. But I've really tried to be as practical as possible. And at this juncture, I think I will end my sharing. I'll go back to the anchor for what should be next. I assume that's questions, but I'd like to know if this has helped, guys. I'd like to see comments. I like to see comments. I see the emojis. I like it. But if what I've shared has been helpful, I like to see comments. I like to see multiple comments in the chat to that effect. And at this point, please, the host can take over for the questions. Guys, I'm not seeing any comments yet. I want to see comments in the chat.
Thank you so much, Glory. Thank you so much for sharing. Please, let's drop our comments. If you have question, now is the time. If you have question, you can just raise up your hand so we can take questions quickly. Thank you so much, Glory. It was a very wonderful time having to hear you share your experience with us. Please, does anyone have questions? Any questions? If there's no question, I think you should ask us questions since no one is speaking. So if does anyone has any question? Okay, Boluwatife, thank you. So Boluwatife, you can go ahead, please.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Glory. I joined a bit late, but from what I heard, like,
yeah,
can you hear me? Okay. So I wanted to ask, when you are entering a market that is already saturated, let's say, for example, the fintech market, especially in this climate, and you are bringing something entirely different from, okay, you are still serving the market what it has, but you are bringing into it, there's this newness and innovation that is new. and no other product is serving this or solving this issue in that regard. But the market is just antagonistic towards you because they feel like what will make us download your app when we already have several options? How do you go about this, like knowing that they don't even want to listen to you in the first place, or like they're not interested in whatever you have to, they don't even want to give you a chance? Yes. Put it that way.
Okay. That's all right. That's all the question.
Yes.
They say that business is war. Do you believe? I show you. Business is war. It takes more than a great product to build this. If I was building a fintech app that does exactly what Kuda, OP, Money Points, Fair Money, PalmPay does, those are the 5 top guys, and I'm happy to currently work and lead, play a major role in one of the guys. So I'm a Kuda currently, and Kuda for me is number 1, of course. Right now, so if I was building a fintech app that does what Kuda, Money Points, OP, Fair Money, PalmPay does, it's going to be crazy, first of all, to even want to attempt to build a business based on this. Right? So when I say based on this, I mean you want to build a fintech business that will play in a market that has whales already operating. And not just whales, but whales with incredible financial ability. Right? I would advise anybody who sends a proposal to me, and I'll tell them to think twice. Unless you have one primary thing, unending money or incredible capital. Here's why. If you want to break, if you have the ambition of breaking in, you would need to have, apart from building a great product, which of course, building a solid team to build, or getting a solid team to build for you would do, you would need to spend a lot on marketing. Kuda does heavy marketing. Money Points is everywhere. OP is everywhere, word of mouth. PalmPay and Fair Money. Fair Money is everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, Google ads. When you're browsing on those websites that shows ads, you just click one button, you see Fair Money, come and collect the money. Those guys have spent billions to get to where they are. Kuda, many years ago, was sponsored for BB Nigeria. That was a couple billions. Kuda sponsored the World Cup. So when you hear that Kuda has 10 million customers and more, billions were spent to get there. Capital, millions of dollars. Money Points recently raised over $100 million in, I think, their Series A or Series B. Recently, they closed another round to complete that round. That's Series A or Series B. Another, I think, about $12 or $20 million. So, to answer your question in a nutshell, if you have an idea to build something that will compete with them without capital, die the idea. Capital is going to be a major contributing factor on the business side so it means you need to outspend them. And of course, if you get all the other back-end things right, you have a great product that works, you have partnerships that are solid, you have a good channels which are accessible in terms of like a mobile app, great experience. If you could, I mean, what's the thing that made OP jump into number 1 in terms of agency, PS terminals, and all of that stuff, right? It was instant transfers. So right now, apart from even money, if you can beat OP or beat the Money Point or beat the Kuda in terms of instant transfers, then so I hope in a nutshell I've touched this, that when it comes to building a successful business, it's beyond just the fine products. It's also about the business. It's about the capital. It's about the founders. It's about their vision. It's about the ability to build a solid team, not trying to find intern product managers who would collect 100,000 naira a month to build an app, or not trying to get, you guys know what I mean, right? Okay. What's the next question, please?
I think Ruben, okay, let's have Caleb. Ruben dropped a question in the chat box. Okay, what I'll do is I'll read that first, and then Caleb will speak next, right? So what Ruben dropped here is, what's your advice for a new food ordering app that will be operating a one vendor, that same restaurant at different location, and what kind of pricing would you advise? I don't know if you can see it. Glory, please, can you see
Yeah, no,
it?
I can. So I have a question.
Oh,
Ruben,
okay.
are you able to speak? Ruben, are you able to speak? I need to ask one or two questions. Sorry, I can answer specifically. Are you able to speak?
Yeah. Good evening.
All right, cool. Yeah. Hi, Ruben.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. No, hold up. Looking at your question, my assumption is that the food ordering app is owned by the company. It's not like an aggregator. Chowdeck is an aggregator, Glovo is an aggregator. They bring these guys together on one platform. But this food ordering app is owned by the company, correct? They want to make it easy for their customers to order food. Is that correct?
Yeah. And there will be different locations for to be discovered by each customers.
Okay, so that's great. It means that, one, they've been able to establish a loyal market base, or loyal customer base. There are multiple locations. They have loyal customer base. That's customers across each of those locations. That tells me that currently those customers drive down, walk in to get food, and what they want to do now is they want to be able to serve them better. They want to be able to scale. So they are saying, we want to build an app that you can use to order for food. And don't worry, we'll come to deliver at your end. Now, let me start from the pricing model. It's pretty straightforward. The pricing is going to be a combination of the cost for the food plus delivery, right? Now, doing this means that on the back end operations, the company already has like riders, they have bikes on ground, they have riders. It's either they are buying their bikes and they are hiring their own drivers, which they'll manage, or they are partnering with a driver agency or logistics agency. So the logistics company would take care of all the deliveries and all that. Now, they would need to look at their costs. How much is it going to cost to deliver food across the city, right? They'll need to do like an aggregate cost. So if in the city there are 10 hub spots or critical locations, how much will it cost to get to each of those locations? And then they need to tie a cost to each geographical point in each location, right? Now, when launching this, to make it enticing for your users, if you launch with heavy or expensive, let me give an example of what I mean. If you want to send a package from here to point X, if you open your regular delivery app, let's say Bolt or Uber, it's possible they charge me 9,000 naira. Now, if a customer wants to order food from a restaurant and you are showing them 9,000 naira for delivery, it's going to be off-putting. It's going to be discouraging. Now, what our advice and counsel is to drive adoption for this new distribution strategy, which is the app. The customer will need to, the restaurant will need to set some money aside. They will need to absorb some cost for logistics initially. So, if the average delivery fee will be 3,000 naira or 4,000 naira or 5,000 naira, let them put 2,005 and bear the other 2,005 for maybe the first 1,000 deliveries. Do you understand? So again, it's all business. And I'll just do the numbers and end here because of time. Now, I said, if the average cost for delivery 5,000 naira, separate 2.5 million or separate some money aside and bear 2,005 and put only 2.5 or only 2,000, depending on how much capital is available for the first 1,000 deliveries. What that means is the company will be bearing 2,005 for 1,000. That's 2.5 million. But you might scream and say, "Oh, we'll be losing money," but you're not losing money. That's actually cost for scale. Where they will get money or gain the money back is there will be 1,000 orders for food. So let's say the average order for food will be 6,000 naira, a plate of rice, salad, and chicken, 6,000 naira. Or it could be less, but let's say the average would be 5,000, 6,000 naira. They would make revenue of 5,000 naira times 1,000, which is 5 million, right? And so the margins initially might be slim, but I think that as time goes on, they would be able to scale and scale and scale and grow margins. Businesses like Chowdeck Glovo is a margins game. Fintech is a margins game, right? So that would be basically my counsel for that type of thing. Do all of your research into the locations and the average costs for delivery. Set some money aside. If, like I said, if you launch with a high delivery cost, nobody will do it. You'll find some crazy customers that prefer to drive down to get their food and go back. But you really, but if you can get this to grow and grow adoption, then you guys will be able to scale the business faster. You'll be able to process a lot more orders in a day. Yeah. So that would be what my advice would be. Does that make sense? Is Ruben still on the call? Okay, do we have?
Yes,
Exactly,
yes,
Yeah,
yes, it does.
Oh, okay.
Although
Can
I
I-
missed some parts. Network. Thank you.
yeah, so I think Ruben said he missed some parts because of his network, but so we can wrap up. Let's have Caleb take his question and then we'll end the session. It's
Yeah, that's also the fine.
8:35. Yeah,
I like
yeah.
yeah.
Hello, Caleb. Yeah, you can go ahead, please.
All right, thank you so much, Glory. Please confirm. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, all right. So I have two questions basically. One, when you were speaking as regards to scaling and incentives. So take for instance the situation whereby you can't spend a lot on marketing, but incentives kind of help your numbers. So you're doing a month-to-month analysis and you're seeing an increase in terms of transaction count, volume, and even revenue when you trigger incentives. Is there a way you can actually sustain this without bleeding much cash? So from your experience, I'd like you to speak on that. That's number one. Number two, from everything you highlighted in terms of product, pricing, marketing, and whatnot, I didn't really hear anything as regards to technological resource because I believe you can actually have a good vision, a good strategy, do all of this. But where does technological resource come to play? In terms of having the right front end, back end, DevOps, your tech QA testers and whatnot. How does that factor into perfect execution? So these are the two questions.
Could you take the first one again? Sorry, I got distracted. Just take just a summary of the first one. Just
so the summary of the first one basically is regards to when you talked about how incentives help to grow and scale. All right. So take for instance, the company cannot actually spend much in terms of marketing, but it can do a lot of incentives. Is there a way to sustain these incentives without bleeding much cash on the company? Is there a way from your experience?
When you say incentives, can you give an example?
So take for instance,
just give me a random example.
You do a transfer, and for every transfer we give you, say, 5 naira in return. When we know that for every transaction count, from 5,000 naira below is 5 naira, and then above is between, let's say, 10 to 25 naira. So we're giving you a percentage of your transaction fee back to you, something like that.
Okay, cool. So what you're saying is if you don't have a lot of money for marketing, but you have incentives, how can you keep incentives going for a long time? Incentives is money as well, right? This example you give, right? What you're essentially giving to the customers is free money. When you give incentives, you are losing money. You are spending money to gain customer loyalty and favor. to attract customers, to keep the customers, right? So even for incentives, let me give an example. Kuda, one thing that helps Kuda scale a lot is Kuda, apart from Kuda being the first proper digital bank or new bank in Nigeria, Kuda for the first couple years run campaigns a lot on free transfers. I'm sure we remember. Kuda are the guys that introduced for the first time ever free transfers to the market. That was incentive. Do your transfers for free, no charges. And to today, it's still free. Your first 3 transfers in a day are free. Afterwards, we charge you something that you don't even take to heart. So incentives require money. Now, let me talk about the marketing part. If I have amazing incentives that are great and powerful, but I'm not able to put all the incentives in people's faces, how are they going to come in? No way. So if you have amazing incentives you created without having the capital to market your product, and even, I mean, okay, so let's say on Monday at the office, we create a new incentive. Let's do a discount. It's going to be powerful. It's going to, users are going to love it and all that stuff. How do I, if I'm not able to get that discount, if I'm not able to advertise that discount or the promo, or run a campaign to show that discount to my users, to 100,000 people, to 500,000 people, to 1 million people, how are they going to experience it? No way now. It will be the same 100 guys in the app that will get experience it. So without marketing, there's no growth. Like, incentives don't replace marketing. You need marketing to drive growth. You need marketing to announce and advertise your incentives and all of that stuff. So it's not the one replacing the other. One, they complement themselves basically. So if ultimately there is no capital, then the founders of the business need to either go and find a way to raise money or gather more capital from friends and family to keep the lights on and business going. Do you get that?
Solid, yeah, I did.
All right, cool. You had a second question or something?
Yeah, so the second question was just relating to, from every angle you've captured. I mean, I was just looking at, I didn't hear anything as regards to technological resource. You can actually have a good vision, all of this together. From your experience, where does this technological resource come to play? From your DevOps, your backend engineer, front end, and your QA testers.
Are you asking from a competitive analysis lens or from a general product
from a
development lens?
Yes, because you spoke a lot about like the top guys in the fintech space. We know how much in terms of technological depth they do have in terms of technological resource. So I'm just saying, somebody who is trying to come in, a startup trying to penetrate into that system, how much of that is so important to this competitor analysis?
Right. So good point. It actually matters. It contributes something. It's probably not the most critical thing, but it contributes something. And I'm going to give instances or scenarios where it contributes. There are certain products today that if you want to build, knowledge or the talent with the required knowledge and skill to build is highly specialized and perhaps specialized geographically. What I mean is there are certain products that you might want to build in the market today. For example, if you're building like a crypto-based app or blockchain-based app, finding talents with the skill to build that are specialized. And depending on the skill, sometimes you might need to look abroad, outside Nigeria, to get talent from a specific country to build it. So if I wanted to build something that could compete globally and cater to millions of users, I would need to look at my competitors and look at where did they source for talent to the right talent with the right skills and knowledge to build this. If it's India, then obviously it tells me that, guy, get enough money, go to India, find guys who can build this. Also, it gets crazy because sometimes I've seen scenarios where competitors will go and find sometimes the same companies, right? Because I want to tell the story, but we don't have time. So competitors will go and find the same companies who manage development for their competitor and get them to also build their product and build it better. It's possible, it happens, right? Business again is war. And real rule. So yes, I agree with you. Sometimes the technology, the talents, the technology and the talents, the resource matters. But I think that looking at a unique context in Nigeria and West Africa and Africa, perhaps that is not the most critical thing. Obviously, what matters the most is I want to build X. Can I get qualified persons who can build X? So if, let's say, Money Points went to go and get people from the US and all of that stuff, fine, we wanted to do that. But can I find qualified, knowledgeable, skilled guys in Nigeria who can build X? As long as I can find guys with required experience, then it's fine. Who they get, what country they bring from, doesn't matter to me, right? For example, I know top fintech companies right now that domicile their database management teams in external countries, in the US, for example. Nigerian fintechs, whose all of their database management technology teams are domiciled in the US. Will I now say, because I found that in research, I go and find in the US? No. If I can find qualified guys in Nigeria that have the core experience to manage my databases or whatnot, right? Why not? I can use them. So I think it's contextual. If you are playing in the space that is niche and requires high specialization, then you, in your competitive analysis, you can also spread to the technological resource part as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Glory. Thanks so much for sharing. So we can all check the chat box. Gloria has dropped his full name and a link to find him on LinkedIn, so we can check him out, connect with him. He has a lot on his on LinkedIn there that we can all connect with as well. Thank you so much for sharing. Thanks so much for your time again, Glory. Please let's give him a round of applause. If you are on the call, thank you. Thank you, Caleb. Thank you, Fishayo. Hi, Jane. We already took the last question. Oh, was that a mistake? Okay, I guess that was a mistake there. Okay, I guess that's a mistake. So without further ado, thank you so much, Glory. It was really nice having you on the call. Let's all check Glory out on LinkedIn and connect with him as well. Let's have a good evening, a good night rest. Bye for now. End the coffee. I think stop recording.